Hello, boys and girls. I hope you're doing well at home. I miss seeing your faces every day. Today, we're going to talk about some social studies, and we're going to talk about Martin Luther King Jr. And Martin Luther King Jr. is a very important man in our history. And some of you may have talked about him back in January around Martin Luther King Day. Do any of you remember some of the things we talked about then? Well, it's okay if you don't remember, because today we're going to talk all about his life and why he's important and why we need to celebrate him and remember him. So Martin Luther King was a man who believed that everyone should be treated equally, no matter the color of their skin, the color of their hair, their age, their religion, or where they're from. He said that everybody should be treated the same. And in his time period, that wasn't what was happening. People weren't treated the same. So he organized nonviolent protests because people weren't being treated equally. And he led the civil rights movement. And the civil rights movement was a movement that worked to change that so that everybody would be treated equally. And we're going to watch a brain pop. And the brain pop tells us all about Martin Luther King and his life and why he is important. All right, so here comes our brain pop.
Martin Luther.
There it's gonna come. All right, so listen to our brain pop.
Check it out. There's a Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day celebration on Monday. What was life like when Martin Luther King Jr. was growing up? Martin Luther King Jr. was born on January 15th, 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia. When he was growing up, some white neighbors wouldn't let their kids play with him because he was black. Back then, people of different races and cultures were not always treated equally. People were often mistreated just because of the color of their skin. African Americans and people of other races were not allowed to go to the same schools as white students. Segregation is the separation of people based on their race, culture, religion, or other reason. There were segregated businesses and even segregated water fountains. But Martin Luther King Jr. worked hard and overcame many challenges. He skipped 2 grades in high school and went to college. Then he went to graduate school to study religion and received his doctorate. That's why we call him Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. After, he became a reverend, or a leader of a church. He began organizing the community to protest segregation and fight for equal rights for people of all races. What did Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. do? In many parts of the country, whites and people of other races had to sit on different parts of the bus. On December 1st, 1955, a woman named Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat to a white person. She was arrested and sent to jail. Dr. King helped organize the Montgomery bus boycott to protest segregation on buses. Thousands of people refused to ride the bus for over a year. Finally, the Supreme Court ruled that segregation on buses was against the Constitution. After, Dr. King and other church leaders came together to form the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Together, they decided to fight for equal rights in peaceful, nonviolent ways. Dr. King led more boycotts of businesses that practiced segregation or treated African Americans unfairly. He also helped organize sit-ins. A sit-in is a kind of protest where people sit and refuse to move or leave. People sat peacefully in segregated restaurants in protest. Even when the protesters were mistreated, they refused to leave. Although segregation was against the law in many places, it still happened. Dr. King helped organize protesters who rode buses to make sure segregation was not being practiced. They were called Freedom Riders. Dr. King helped organize peaceful marches around the country. Marchers asked for equal rights and fair treatment of people of all races and cultures. Sometimes they were mistreated, but they stood up for what they believed in. What did Dr. King do in Washington, D.C.? In 1963, Dr. King helped organize the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. Hundreds of thousands of people of different cultures came together. There, he delivered his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. He said, "I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." Even though Dr. King protested peacefully, he was arrested many times. Some people disagreed with him, and they tried to scare him away or hurt him. But he didn't let anything stop him. In 1964, Dr. King won the Nobel Peace Prize, an important award given to people who work for peace and equality. On April 4th, 1968, Dr. King was in Memphis, Tennessee, to support African American sanitation workers who were protesting unfair treatment and pay. Dr. King was staying at a hotel and was standing outside his room. There, he was shot and killed. A man named James Earl Ray was arrested for assassinating Dr. King. Thousands of people walked in the streets to honor an important leader of the civil rights movement. Today, many people are still treated unfairly, and the fight for equal rights continues. We celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day to remember his life and learn about his beliefs.
All right, so did you learn a lot about Martin Luther King? Can you tell someone in your house something that you learned about Martin Luther King that you didn't know before? Yeah, so why was Martin Luther King famous? He wanted people to be treated equally, and he worked hard his whole life to try to make sure that that happened. So what are some things that you could do to try to make the world better? Martin Luther King worked really hard to try to make the world better, but we can do things to make the world better too. What are some things that we can do to make the world better? We can help each other. We can be kind. We can be caring. And we can work together to try to make the world better. So we're going to write a sentence. We're going to write, "I can be kind to people." So we have how many words? We have 6 words. What's our first word? Our first word is I. Now when we start a sentence, how do we need to begin our sentence? We need to begin with a capital letter. So we're going to write I, and then we need what? We need a finger space. I can. Can is a sight word. Who remembers how to spell can? C-A-N. I can be. We need another finger space. Be is also a sight word. So how do we spell be? B, E, and now we need another space. I can be kind. How do we spell kind? What does kind start with? K, I, D. I can be kind. I can be kind. I need what? I need a finger space. Two. Two is a sight word. How do we spell two? T. Oh, uh-oh, I'm out of space. What do I need to do? We're going to go down here. I can be kind to people. How do I spell people? What do I hear at the beginning? E, and then we have an O, E, O, and then I have that silent E, people. Now, is my sentence over? How do I mark that my sentence is over? I need to put a period, just a little dot. Now let's read our sentence. I can be kind to people. You can be kind to people and you can help change the world and make the world a better place, just like Martin Luther King worked to make the world a better place. All right, I hope you guys have a great day and I'll see you next week for another video. Bye guys.